Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Atlanta SEO for Local Businesses Meetup. I'm your co-organizer, Tricia Clements. Andy Simpson is here. He is my co-organizer and partner in crime here for the Atlanta SEO Meetup. You can find us online on Facebook, YouTube, and Meetup. I'm going to post those in the chat in just a few minutes. I wanted to introduce to you all, our speaker today is Amy Toman. She's here to talk about local SEO myth busting. And Amy's a Google product expert. She works at the Digital Law Group. So as you all know, she and Amy work together. And it's really interesting how I met Amy and Andy. I met them completely separately and found out that they worked together. I met Amy through a mutual friend when she came to Atlanta for a conference several years ago. I don't remember if it was 2000, maybe 18 it was. Can't remember. It's been a while though. So I'm going to go ahead and let Amy start off and talk to us about local SEO myth busting. Hi, Amy.
Hey, everybody. Get that in there. Hello. I am, as you can tell by the back, I'm at the Jersey Shore. Actually, that's my beach, local beach. As Tricia said, I am a Google product expert as well as being a local SEO specialist with digital law marketing. I can be found on Twitter at @BubblesUp. I know it sounds silly, but @BubblesUp. And I want to talk today about some SEO myths and maybe also get into some current issues that are popping up, some of which have solutions, some of them have workarounds, but we'll see. The first one I want to bring up, an SEO myth that I hear a lot of times, and it's very, very quickly put off to the side, is that businesses don't need a Google listing. They say they don't need a Google listing because they exist off contacts from social media and from just word of mouth. I understand that a bit, and I can understand that businesses pull in leads. But I've also been told this many times, and then the businesses go on to getting a Google listing, and they soon find that over half of their leads are now coming in from the Google listing, especially if their website isn't where it should be. Usually people who say they don't need a Google listing also don't have the greatest website. So I will bring that up first, that people who say that they don't need a Google listing for their, I will say legitimate business, they really need to have that. That's not something that's really negotiable anymore. It's really something that you have to have for your business. It's the elephant in the room. You may have all sorts of issues. Clients may have issues about Google and the use of their platform. But right now, if you're not on it, that's the problem, is you are really not, you won't get as much business as you probably feel you need. The second thing I want to mention, a myth, that in Google listings, there's two ways to deal with your address. One of them is to have your address displayed, and the other is to hide it. We put in quotes, hiding it. And the differentiation being, do you have people, clients, coming to your location for you to provide your service? If you do not, you are not supposed to have your address show. And people can also, you can also get flagged, if not suspended, for doing that. You have to comply with certain rules if your address is showing. Now, several years ago, I think this may have been true, that you had to have your address showing. But Google has now made enough adjustments in the algorithm that it's no longer true. If your address doesn't show, but all things being equal, meaning you're putting an equal amount of effort into it as your competitors in your market, you should show up fine. If your website is better, if you have more reviews, you're constantly updating, you are most likely the same as, if not better than, your competitors. So if anybody tells you that, a lot of times they don't know what they're talking about. Another thing is, and this has come up a lot because I answer a lot of questions on the Google My Business Help forum. And this has come up a lot in the last, I would say, month or so. I have a Google My Business listing. I don't show my address. So I say, when they're asking as to why they got suspended, I'll say, and what is the address you used? Oh, I don't have my address showing. So I look at their website. I usually do this before I ask that question, but I ask on the web, I say, it's not on the website. Can you please tell me the address you used? The address they're using, and this is, remember, they got suspended. They don't know why. The address they're using is a mailboxes place, like a UPS store, a mailboxes, etc. Maybe a co-working space that allows you to use their address. Can't do that. You can't do that. And I know most people say, well, because my address doesn't show, I took it off Google. But that's not the way it goes. The way it actually goes is Google needs your address. And people say to me, I don't remember entering my address. You had to have entered your address, because before about the past 6 months, the only way to get verified was to have Google send you a postcard. Again, it's changing, but still, you had to have received a postcard. So you did enter an address. Now, certain types of addresses make you ineligible for a listing. Okay. What it basically comes down to is, if you are entering an address that you do not control. Okay. So technically it shouldn't be a family member's home. It shouldn't be an employee's home. It needs to be a place that you either own or you rent or you lease, and you can prove it. So when people say, I don't show my address, so I can have my address at the local post office, that's not true, because even if you got verified, if you get suspended, and I'm not sure what the experience level is of people here today, but if you get suspended, one of the things you need to do is you need to send Google your supporting documentation, right? That has your consistent business name and consistent address. If that address is your home, but you were using an address at a virtual mailboxes place, they will not return your listing. They will not reinstate you. Everything has to be incredibly, incredibly consistent. Okay. So again, that's another way that they can tell you were not using a Google kind of approved location. You definitely, whether your address shows or not, you have to use a regular approved location. Because Google will find out. One way or the other, Google finds out. I mean, one of the ways, honestly, is if your listing is at the same location as a mailboxes, etc. That's usually a big thing. And Google usually isn't the one who will point this out. It'll be a competitor, and you'll never find out which one. Not that it matters, but what they do is they will flag it, and then Google goes in and decides whether it's of value to suspend. So just be aware, even if your address does not show, or a business's address does not show, it has to be a legitimate address. One thing I thought was interesting that people haven't started to realize, I've been thinking a lot recently about images on both websites and Google listings. And I think people undervalue good pictures on their Google listing. I have seen many businesses that will have pictures of, okay, say like somebody walks dogs. They will have pictures of dogs on there. They do not have pictures of the person who's actually providing the service. And then when they do Google My Business posts, the Google My Business post contains stock images. Google, for the most part, is very specific about that. And by the way, I do see that the thread about the home address. You can definitely use your home address. The big thing is to make sure, and Trisha, I think already said this, to make sure that you have documentation that lists both your business title and the home address. on it. I always tell them, if you're going to get suspended, you always want to make sure you have at least 3 documents, and, just keep them off to the side, know that you have them, so that if you ever get suspended, you can prove, like I said, your business title and address. Okay. So, photos on Google listings are really important. As I said, if you have somebody like, say, a plumber, the plumber should not be posting, like, say, product images, right? Don't show a newly installed water tank unless, I mean, you can do that, but the majority of your photos should have humans in them, because Google needs to learn more about what the business does and who does it. And by posting images that are unique to the business, they can be cell phone photos. The majority of them are seen on mobile devices, but avoid, as much as possible, avoid stock images, because while they may illustrate your point, on the other hand, it can be seen everywhere. So it's not unique to your business. And Google now has gotten to the point, and I don't know if Andy and Tricia have discussed this, where Google can tell what's in a photo. Like 10, 15 years ago, they couldn't do that. And they always said, if you have a photo and you want somebody to use the information in it, you should also have that information in text, which is kind of still good, still helpful. But now Google can tell the content of an image. So if on your Google listing, you're posting pictures of dogs and not any photos of whatever service you provide, Google is not going to get as full a picture as if you could show them, as if you posted photos of, say, a dog being groomed, or a dog being walked, or a cat getting a medication. Those are far greater value. Again, this goes along with the set it and forget it, that Google listings and your website to some degree is not set it and forget it sort of thing. You need to update it frequently, and you need to kind of go with what the new algorithms are saying. So again, stock images are great now and then, but you really need to concentrate on having unique images put up on a consistent basis. Those are what will help you most. So another one I was talking about relative to your website. Again, this is about images. Because Google can tell what is in an image. Okay, they can tell if it is a tree, they can tell you what type of tree it is. If somebody has equipment, Google can usually tell you what type of equipment it is. So you want on your website, you want to do the same thing. You want to make sure that you have unique images whenever possible. I mean, really unique images. And you want to have them specific to your business. If your business is in a very, say it's in Canada, it's a rural area of Canada, the landscape there would not be the same. A photo taken there would not be the same, and shouldn't be on the site of somebody who lives down in New Mexico on the edge of the desert. So make sure that your images are specific. And I'll refer back. Recently, Google made some updates to their photo management strategies, where they were saying that their guidelines, and a few things they were saying. Images need to be in focus, can't be blurry. They need to be well lit, and they need to be specific to the business. And they specifically talked about selfies. Now, I'm thinking, what kind of business would they be referring to with selfies? All right. So the one that first came to mind is, and this may be a little bit off track, a restaurant. Now, restaurant, most photos you would expect would be of food, which I expect is true. And so Google would say, okay, fine, make sure that at least the photos are well lit so we know what the food is. And we learn, because Google's algorithm will learn, say, okay, when I see this, it's most likely salsa. When I see this, it's most likely tacos. Well, when they say they don't want selfies, but they do want images pertinent to a business, cool pictures to have up there are pictures of the chef, the owner, and this is in your Google listing. Because if you think about it, those photos should also be on the website. So Google would not remove those photos, most likely, if they can also connect those images to people on the website. It's all part of that whole entities situation. If they see that somebody is listed as an owner or a chef, and they connect that owner and chef status to the person's name, to the person's image, if you then have photos of, when a chef comes out and he will stand by tables and he will ask people, are you enjoying your meal? Can I answer any questions? And they take a photo. Google, in theory, should not remove that because they have made the connection between that person and the business, the website attached to the business. So that's just kind of musings on my part, but my guess is it's based on reality. Another thing I want to bring up, and I have a couple more here, location pages. Yeah, location pages. I do some work with businesses who do not service clients at their locations. They go to their person's home. What I find a lot is that there is little to no optimization for locations. And that's a real bummer. What you need to optimize for on almost every website, especially for a service area business, is the services they provide and the location at which they provide them. What I often see is there is no section on the homepage that's specifically, because I consider homepages as composed of sections, right? You may have an image at the top, you have an H1, I always call it the welcome H1, you have like a welcome paragraph, then you have others, the services we provide, our location, why choose us, footer, done. Here's the thing. People often do not include any information on their homepage or just a sentence or two about their location, or rather, if not necessarily the location, but the areas that they service. So to not have that on a homepage is one thing, but even worse is if you don't have, especially for a service area business, if you don't have a page dedicated to that, and that page being on the main navigation bar. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen this, and when people add it, you will not believe how much more business they have or how much more traffic coming in, because now it's so much more obvious where they are, right? Your H1 should have the location. You should have service area, a section on the homepage, maybe have it listed in the footer. And then you have links to the location page. And then from the location page, if you want to further optimize, you have a page for either the primary or all locations. But I think a lot of small businesses don't understand that even if they only have one location, maybe it's a physical location, even if you have a physical location, you still should have information on that location. Are you uptown, downtown? Are you easy to access? I know Andy is very good on telling people that we are near, and they say like a major highway. That information is really helpful for users. So that, and it maybe, you never know, some of these things may get picked up by Google as well. And I always say having a location page in itself is helpful, because that's yet another page that can come up. If you're looking for, plumbers in your town, that's yet another page that can come up, as opposed to just, a list of home pages. So that's something to consider. The big thing I was going to say is about having addresses. You have your address at the bottom of the page. And again, that's interesting, but it all kind of ties into your homepage should be optimized for your location and your services. The business, obviously you put in there, but the two biggest things that you want on your homepage are those two, because then Google can pick them up more easily. It all has to do with that concept, which is people have been talking about for about a year, which is EAT. And the more Google kind of can make connections with you to your business, the better for your business. So those are kind of my main my main points about like SEO myths that people kind of don't understand. If anybody has questions, cool. If not, I also have a few few trends that are coming up recently on the forum.
Let's go over a couple of the trends and then we can get to some questions. Yeah, why don't we do that? If you, that sounds good.
Okay. Images. Google, just the big thing is that Google updated their paperwork, and I'm not sure if you linked to it, but Google updated their photos information. They did include about the sizes. They did have that in the formats, but the things that they also mentioned were, as I said before, they want clear photos, they want well-lit photos, and they want photos that are pertinent to the business. Just as mentioned before, stock images are okay, but they are not the ones that you really want. They actually say that, I think they actually may even use the phrase they're frowned on. Google wants to know who your business is, what they do, where they do it, and how they want you to post photos that are most helpful for users. You know, if you go to a certain park in the area, it's funny because I think Google in a selfish way wants you to also post and label these photos so that they can add them kind of to their knowledge base. So that's one thing. I will tell you too, though, some photos are also, Google has also increased the photos, increased the filtering on photos. A lot of folks recently have been saying on the forum that their photos have been filtered out. So because the photos filtered out, a post is not showing up. Sort of things that people are being filtered for, racy. And when I say racy, that's literally the term Google uses in one of their tools. It's RACY. And a few of the ones that I've seen are basically people in bathing suits, in pools, swimming pools. Andy and I had this issue, I want to say like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and we got around it. But but the thing was, it was something about a swim coach with a girl in a swimming pool. She was fully clothed. You know, he had from his like chest down, he was kind of underwater, so you couldn't see anything with him. But basically what we concluded was that it showed too much skin. So Google, like I said, is increasing the filters. You want to have benign photos. You don't want to have something. I think at some point, Andy may be able to point you to the tool, the Vision AI, I think it's Vision AI tool. You may want to be able to post a link up there, and that will give you an idea, like, what does Google see that I'm not seeing, right? And I think that's really cool. Like I did this a while ago. I posted a photo. I added to that a photo of my cat. And not only did they know it was a cat, they knew what type of cat it was. They knew whether it was long hair or short hair. They knew about the Vision AI. They knew that he was on a rug. And there was just like all this like wealth of things, terms that they pulled out about the fact that this was a cat. And there was a shadow. And it was just, it's really, you owe it to yourself to go to that Google Vision AI tool that Andy has linked to, because Google sees things in photos that are sometimes enlightening, sometimes a little scary, and sometimes just outright stupid. I have seen them say some things are racy or some things are adult when they are not. So this tool is not perfect. They need context, and they don't have that at this point. And also there's no place to really dispute it. If your images get rejected, there's no place you can really go, because they won't, you know, you can go to the forum and all people will tell you on the forum is, oops, it got filtered, use another picture. So just putting that's one thing to just put out there. Reviews are also being filtered. Rolling my eyes. Reviews, earlier this year, Google increased their review filters because they want to try to get rid of a lot of the spam that's out there. You know, people paying for reviews, people incentivizing for reviews, things like that. In doing that, they have put out, they basically are just catching a lot of legit reviews, and you have to fight to get them back. The best thing you can do is go onto the forum, and actually, you know what I'm going to do, because I'll let y'all see if you can post a link to the Google My Business a Google Business Profile Help Forum is what it's called. It's really frustrating because a lot of times you will say, oh no, I know this person, they were my customer. Their review is very, is fine. I don't see the problem. Well, you know what? It's one of two things. It's either the content, it's one of three things. It's either your listing has a problem, which is kind of infrequent. The content of the review, they don't, oh, thank you, Tricia, for posting that. The content of the review has something that Google's seeing in there. And mind you, I actually saw somebody say the other day that they didn't like a review because it had what they considered a racist term. And I looked at it and I was like, I wouldn't call that a racist term, but you know what? Send it. It wasn't me. It was another person was asking me about this. I said, send it to the team, to Google, and give them educational information about why that may be perceived by some, all, any group as being racist. But this is the thing, they're catching a lot of legit reviews. If you have one or two, I hate to say it, and I know people are not going to like me saying this, but it's not that big a deal. Google doesn't view it as that big a deal. What if you lose a lot of them? If you have a business that has several hundred and they lose 50, 60, 70, yeah, that's a big deal. You go to the forum, you hope a product expert like me will catch it. People can always, ping me on Twitter if they want to make sure I see the post. But when it gets up there, yes. The problem, see, this is also one of the reasons why you want to ask. I tell people right now, ask for 5, you're going to get 2 or 3 that are going to get published. Because we don't understand Google's filters yet. What I have seen as perfectly great reviews have not been published. What I've seen as reviews that are clearly spam are just sitting there, and you can tell from different elements that they're fake or that they were paid to leave these. Nothing. We got nothing. So if there are 2 or 3, I would tell the person, ask for more reviews to kind of make up for the loss of that, right? The big thing I'd say more than anything else is right now you need to ask for as many reviews as possible, knowing they're not going to that, like I said, at least half of them won't post. I would also go so far as to, and this is really important, if people get reviews, always take a screenshot of the review when it gets listed on there, in case it goes away later. If you get notified by email that you received a review, save that email. And those are if you ever lose them, or if you have something else that causes them to go away. That's the big thing. But also, if you get new reviews, a really good idea that I got, and I thought this is very impressive by a business I work with, is what they do is if somebody says, oh, I will leave you a review, just ask them to send you a screenshot. Ask them to send you a nice screenshot. And if it doesn't show up, again, get your collection together. When you get like 4 or 5, go onto the forum and say, but this is also the case for 1 or 2 reviews not showing up is going to mean a lot to a business who only has 3 or 4. So you need to ask everybody for reviews. And it's really self-defense at this point, because like I said, if you ask for 5, you get 2. Google let you have 3. So to build this up, you just really need to be very, very aggressive about saying, oh, if you had a great time, would you do me the biggest of favors and leave me a review? Okay, so the last thing I want to bring up, and this is something that I will bring this up. Andy and I spoke about this, but right now there is an issue, and unfortunately I don't have a solution for this, but I want to make you all aware of it, especially if this is your business or if you are in contact with other businesses who are service area businesses, also known as SABs. Right now there is a problem with SABs. Some people are reporting, and I've seen probably 10 of these so far this week, that since last week, that's where it seems to have started, that their service area business listing, meaning it does not show the address, right? That you hid the address and you were trying to be good, that they're not showing up in their local area. Now, as I said at the start of today, whether your address shows or not does not normally have a bearing on whether you show up in your local pack. It doesn't normally, and it shouldn't be, right? Treat everybody equally, right? And the quality of their business and whatever. But what seems to be happening is similar to what happened last year, 18 maybe, where businesses were, it was called the Kansas bug. And the same sort of thing happened where people who did not have their addresses show were not seen locally. Addresses, information was collected by these businesses, given to Google. Google fixed it, and they came back for the most part, right? That seems to be the problem now. Something is going on. We don't know what it is. Google has not acknowledged it. Hopefully this week, maybe towards the end, something will come up. They will say something, they will do something. But at the moment, these businesses, I had somebody who, she was literally at the address that she was registered. So if she had said, her business near me, she should have been the first one to come up. Proximity alone, she should have been the first one to come up, and she did not. I did it. I went through because I have a changer that puts where my address is, right? I can say I'm in this location. I could not find her anywhere. And it was really, really sad and terrible. So, we got it. We kind of got it dealt with. I took her information. Hopefully she will start showing up again. Actually, I did fix it in a way that's kind of, I don't know about, but anyway, and it once their address comes back, if they put their address on it, things hopefully will come back. So I just want to bring that up, that there's no solution for it yet. Google has yet to acknowledge it, but it has been happening a lot. When there gets an answer, I'm sure Trisha will kind of distribute it out when there's a solution come up, as well as Andy. Andy's very good about these things. But at the moment, if you encounter businesses who say, I don't show my address, but I'm not coming up right now, whereas I was last week, you'll know that it's as of right now. And that's the current biggest thing with Google.
Quick question, Amy.
Yes.
How will the people watching right now, how can they quickly test to see if they've got this new bug?
Be in the location at which you registered your Google listing. And then just literally type in like whatever your service type is, and then say near me. Okay, so if you're a plumber and you are at your workshop, your warehouse where you're registered with that's where you register your Google listing, type that in. Type in, either Bob's Plumbing or plumber near me. And if you don't show up, it's bad. Also, if you showed up, another really highly indicative thing is if you used to show up in the top 3, especially when you're in your local area and you don't, it's probably affecting you also. At the moment, there's no workaround, but that's how you would figure.
Is there also that thing where it shows you in the middle of Kansas on your map or something?
Put it this way, the ones that I have checked have not actually come up in that area. But quite frankly, if you think about this, if they have now taken hundreds of businesses and planted them in take this down, people, Fawn Creek Township in Kansas, you can look it up. It is the geographic center of the US. Last time when there was this bug where Google seemed to have misplaced all of these addresses that people had hidden, these people found themselves in Kansas. My problem is, like I said, if they're putting hundreds, if not thousands of, say plumbers in that town, if you come up as one of the top 3, that's cool. But because you're now in competition with not only the people who are based in Fawn Creek Township, but people from all around the country, you may not show up there. You may not, it won't be obvious anyway. Like the other day, I did the top, I think 20 in Fawn Creek Township who came up for whatever term it was. And they were all over the country. So I don't know if those people have been there since the Kansas bug and never got fixed, or if they've newly been located there. And it's very frustrating because my heart always goes out for really small businesses, people who manage their own socials, who do their own Google work and just, don't even know this is happening. And all of a sudden their traffic goes And so many people have been reporting it over this past week. I really hope that Google, gets on it and starts fixing it. I don't even know if they fixed it the last time, but there we go.
Yeah. Great. And that was my exact question, Andy. So good job. I wanted her to tell us. And one thing to remind people, when she's talking about this Kansas bug, she's talking about service area businesses that don't have their address showing. So
Right. And they don't show up in their local, but most of them end up going, what they'll do is they take your listing and then show you in the geographic center of the country you are in. So for Canada, they were moved to another area. Australia, they were moved to a god-awful place in the middle of nowhere, because if you ever look at Australia, most people live around the edges. They don't live in the geographic center.
Yeah.
Same thing, it happened in basically every English-speaking area that I know of. It actually happened, it was last year or 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Wow, interesting. Very good. I have a question I want to ask about photos. A lot of businesses, kind of like ours, where we do a lot of our work with their clients, we don't necessarily have pictures of us doing something except for sitting down writing. What do you recommend some of those type of businesses use for photos?
Well, I mean, I have actually said, have the homeowner, if you're providing a service in somebody's house. I have somebody coming today to put in my third router in a week. And if this was an independent, oh yeah, it's bad. If I had somebody providing that, if that was somebody from an individual service, I would be fine if he said to me, can you just take a photo of me providing the service?
Yeah.
I also say, if you're providing the service, how is anybody going to know if you were at a client's house or at your own house?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with having your partner, your spouse, your child, your neighbor come over and take photos of you in your house providing the service. And then, you just post them out, consistently, but just, have a photo in your house here, a photo in your house, in a month or something. So there's no problem with that. Google's not going to know if it's your pet or not, or if it's your house for the most part. So that's one way to go around it. And like I said, ask people. A lot of times I know when I was dealing with contractors, one of the best photos you can have as a cover image is, especially if you have wrapped vehicles, is a photo of some of your staff in front of that wrapped vehicle. And remember, that can be taken anywhere. That can be taken at the business location. It can be taken at a house. Who cares if you're about to go and walk into service that house? Find a nice house. If that's, if you have like 6 neighborhoods and you would prefer to get business from like one of them more than the others, take the photo in front of a beautiful house there. Again, it doesn't matter if you're going to walk into that house and work.
Yeah.
Just think of how do you want to be perceived? So, don't have yourself perceived in a house that things are messy, right? If you provide services in the house, find one that's lovely, have somebody, your friend, maybe somebody works for you, have them go in that day and take a photo.
Perfect. Yeah. I actually have a contractor that I want to get some pictures of. I took quite a few, but not as many with the individuals. And I'm trying to get the business owner to let me take a picture of him. Doesn't want a picture. I'm like, come on, picture time.
See, the thing is, it's really helpful to users. Well, first of all, it's EAT, right? It's connecting that person's name, face to the business. And then if, say, he ever sells the business, and he moves on to something else, he still has a little bit of, love from Google because he had so much contact. Google connected him with this business. Yeah. And that's the thing that I don't think people understand now, because Google's got that AI, they look at Trisha and they know, that's your business name and this is what you do. And this is what you used to do. And these are the, based on when you post things, where you post them from, things like that. It all makes up for help to Google to understand about the business and the person. So the more photos, if you're a plumber, the more photos you have of even your hand reaching down for something, or you next to a brand new, something you installed, that's all going to work in your favor because Google knows what's in the photos. They're going to associate it with the business.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. All right. Anyone have any questions you want to ask Amy? She's provided lots and lots of really great information.
I'm very surprised it's so quiet. People, you've got a gold product expert for Google Business Profile here.
Yeah. She knows what she's talking about.
They're all scared. Maybe I don't know. But
I have a question.
Yes.
Brilliant, Kelly.
Kelly?
Thank you.
So Amy, you talked about people who go service area businesses like plumbers who go to other locations. What about people who don't show their own address, but it's because I service people in my own home. I'm a website designer, so I don't go to other people's businesses. Do I count as a service area business?
Yes. Well, put it this way. To count as a regular business, I say regular as opposed to SAB. A regular business, to be defined that way, to have your address show, you need to have signage and a door dedicated to that business. So if you wanted to have your address show, you would have a permanent sign. It can't be a piece of paper. It has to be a permanent sign that's visible, preferably from the road. I know even if you're rural, have it at the beginning of your road. Permanent sign, then photos of a door, because remember, I always think ahead, what do I have to produce if I get suspended? You have to show photos of the permanent signage for the business in general. You have to show a specific door, can't be the front door of the house. It has to be, a door specific to the business. And you have to have people there, a staff member there during stated hours. Now, the last one, I don't know how they are going to prove or disprove that. I guess that depends on the business. But the first two are important. They will ask you. I have seen them do it. They will ask you for photos of the signage in front of the building and at the door.
Okay,
So if you have those, then you're golden. Other than that, I would keep the address not visible.
My address is not visible, and I don't want it visible because I don't have a door. I don't want a door. That's not what I'm saying. So I don't see where businesses like me, knowledge workers, where we fit into this, because I don't go to other people's businesses. No one comes to my business. My business exists between my ears.
She's a website designer, Amy, just so we know. So she's a service area business.
Right. So I don't understand the question besides that, because you don't want to, I understand what you're saying about a service area. It wouldn't necessarily apply to you. I understand that. So maybe not put that, don't have the page for that. I understand, because it's like, there's such nuance to it. There really is. But where you would, I don't know, you wouldn't optimize there for a specific location. The problem is too, you have to be careful because website designers can get Google listings, but there's a lot of people who also work completely like e-commerce. E-commerce can't get, they can't get Google listings. So in as much as, like I said, the service area issue it's specific to website developers. It's also specific to SEOs, SEO agencies, people like that, because as you say, we all operate. It doesn't matter where we operate, basically. And then they fall within a really unique category. So I understand what you're saying, but that's kind of where it is.
I also think that, so even though Kelly can do websites all over, she does have a physical location that she not location, but she has an area that she kind of specializes as far as local people. You do local networking, and a lot of your clients that you try to go for are local, even though they're not, you don't have to necessarily be local. Is that correct, Kelly?
That's true. That's true. I'm very active in local networking.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, in that respect, you want, you can say something like, Atlanta and beyond, but in general, I know what you're talking about. It's that, but again, it's that funny line. It's that nuanced area, because on the one hand, you want to say, we're in Atlanta and I don't know, environs or surrounding areas. But on the other hand, you're also open to work from almost anywhere. Work coming to you from almost any area. like I said, it's an odd area to be in. It's the same thing with SEOs, because when I first started, I didn't know if I could have a Google listing. And then I was told, no, you're totally cool with it because SEOs are allowed. But like I said, e-commerce is not. It's like if everything is done online for most categories, you can't have a listing, but you can have one for website developers and SEOs.
Mhm. Yeah,
Or essentially the same thing.
yeah, I definitely think it's a little bit of a nuanced thing. You kind of, if you're not sure, ask, about a specific business. If they can have a Google business profile listing, then ask Amy or myself. But like Kelly's definitely would benefit your business, especially since you like to get local customers.
But I do have one thing I want to bring up though. Be very careful when you do your Google listing that you do not list your service area beyond 2 hours from your, like 2 hours of driving from your address, because you will get suspended. Or if you get suspended for something else, they will not bring you back unless that is fixed. So that's another thing. I originally was like, oh, I'll service everybody in the US. And then I was told about this. I was like, oh, I'll service everybody in New Jersey, which despite what you may think is actually a lot larger than 2 hours. So I then pulled it back in to just my county. Again, I'm an SEO consultant. I can meet people if I really wanted to, but most of the people I deal with are around, well, they're international. So it's just something for you to keep in mind. Just make sure that you keep your service area on any service area business. Make sure you keep it within 2 hours of the address that you use to set up the listing.
Yeah, and these are for the Google Maps. So everything that Amy's talking about here, as far as your service area in 2 hours, that's for your Google business profile listing. Obviously, your website can then say, okay, you service that area, plus you can service anywhere. So what she's talking about here, as far as your service area, is really just for the Google business profile map, as far as your local service. Because so does that make sense, Kelly?
Yeah. I just, I think my question is, am I a service area business? The whole thing, you guys get into a lot of detail, but I'm stuck up on that higher level question.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You are. There is no question.
Yes,
you are definitely, because again, if you had an office in a building that had, an elevator, or you just walked right into, then you would be able to list that address, because there would be literally, this is what Google hangs on. They want to be able to see what your signage looks like, what the door looks like, what the address looks like. So forgetting anything about what business you provide, only thing that Google looks at is, do you have signage? Do you have a door? And also, is there anything else at that business? Like I said, is it a post office place or whatever? But if you don't have signage, you don't have a door, you're a service area business.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, let's see. I think I saw a question earlier. Jonathan asked about how much to factor link building into the local SEO strategy.
It definitely, I can tell you, it definitely helps.
Yeah.
It helps for an odd reason. When I find that a lot of people will say my Google listing has been stuck and it hasn't been verified. And what do I do, or what did I not do, or whatever. So I don't know if people are aware that when you set up a Google listing, before Google approves it, they look online for other mentions of your business name. Okay. So they will look at your website. That's the first thing they'll do. They look at your website to make sure that your address is on there, or as close as possible to your address. Like, again, some people don't want to put their address per se. They will put their town, their state, their zip code. Cool. But Google will also look further than that. So like, we have a business this weekend that I was very nervous about, because we changed, they changed their listing title kind of precipitously. We didn't kind of know, that it was going to happen. But so everybody worked really seriously hard. And what we did was we updated things like local directories, right? I mean, we're going to work on things like Better Business Bureau, Chamber of Commerce, all of those. So local references, anything from your, say if your local newspaper has a page where they talk about local businesses and they can link to you, that's very helpful. Anything that you sponsor that will link to you, also very important. You want to have basically some social proof, right? That so that you're known in the area. And then again, going back to the EAT, this is something else that Google takes to fill out that whole picture of who your business is, what they do, and where they do it. So in as much as I wouldn't go nuts with it, I wouldn't get every kind of, not Manta's good, but some of them it doesn't matter. They're not that important. But I would go out there and get like YP. I think it's YP is the same as yellowpages.com, I think. Manta, Google Maps, Apple Maps, Yelp, things like that. I would get those. I wouldn't get the smaller ones that nobody ever goes to. But yeah, it is important, and it's primarily to make sure that, that Google knows you're there, because I'm sorry, Google is still the elephant in the room.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely like what you're talking about with the local newspaper and sponsorship, especially for local businesses. I would say getting some different local mentions in certain local, whether it's a magazine or anything like that, it can be really helpful for your business, because while it might not be something that is, known nationwide, it's known locally to your local area.
Exactly. And Andy's got a good point. Chambers of Commerce, it does depend on how good the site is, because I've seen some of them that just don't include a membership list. And if they don't include a membership list, they don't include links. You want places where there are links, and there do follow links.
Yeah.
Very important. Yeah. And it's one of those things that, like, oh my God, people used to do like, hundreds of links. You don't necessarily need to do that. And there are some really good tools out there that will do this for you. You don't have to use the biggest tool out there. You can use some smaller 2-word tools that do it for you. And, it's just once, and it doesn't require, I don't know if I could say the name, but I know I'll say it anyway. Bright Local has a good one where they go out, they do the links, and you don't have to continue to pay a subscription for it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that really has changed over the years. I know Amy and Andy are asked, what is it, the yearly, tell me what it's called, Amy, the yearly stuff as far as where we are in SEO.
The ranking, Andy, do you remember?
Ranking factors, local ranking factors. And that's one thing that over the last 5 years, even, we've seen a big change in how Google business profiles have drastically increased, and link building has, as far as links, is that right? Yes, citations, not links, citations has drastically gone down. And I think that's more along the lines of it's quality over quantity. So don't go out and just spend hundreds of dollars for all these links that don't mean anything, and all these citations that don't mean anything.
Yeah, you know what? I'm big on return on investment. Don't spend your time. Like I said, Bright Local has a good service. And as far as everything I've heard, it's, it's short, it's sweet, it gets you what you need, and you don't need a subscription. And that's the biggest thing, because you need local. I always tell people, honestly, you need 2 kinds, actually. You need local and you need industry. So if you are, and again, I'm going back to the 2 areas I know best. If you're an attorney, or if you're working for an attorney, you look for those directories that are specific to those, like Martindale Hubble, like Avo, like lawyers, not lawyer, lawyers.com, things like that. You look for industry specific links. With pet sitters are often members of Pet Sitters International. Oh yeah, the Better Business Bureau is good, but Pet Sitters International is good. There's another one called NAPS, who are also very good. So it's industry, I always say, try to get links from and link out to local and industry, because both of them build up your, again, your EAT, it all works in together, because you're showing that you're members of these groups, or that you are connected with these groups. It builds up your level of authority also.
Yeah. That's great information. Also, when you mentioned the Better Business Bureau, there's a free listing you can get. You don't have to pay that. You will get contacted to try to get upgrade you to the paid listing. A lot of businesses don't feel that they get the return on that. So there are a couple industries here and there that it might be good for that. But for everyone, at least make sure you have that free listing for a Better Business Bureau.
Well, I have just one thing to bring up about that, which is funny, because a lot of people, I've dealt with a lot of dog walkers, and a lot of them say, well, you know what, it's too expensive to be in this one group, which PSI, Pet Sitters International. But here's the thing that they tend to forget. When you are going for, say, dog walker near me, the homepage is loaded up with maybe 2 local businesses, and not maps, but organic. It'll have, say, 2 local businesses, and then it'll have directory listings.
Yeah.
So if you're a member of one of those directories that comes up, you have a better chance, at least in that respect. If you're not on page 1, you have a really good chance of getting, somebody contacting you through there. So in as much as you may just want the link for in their directory to come to you. On the other hand, that's something else to consider too. Does that group come up on page 1 for your, for your service? And if they do, that's another reason why it might justify paying for it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Let's see, do we have, we're kind of almost at the end here. We are 2 minutes, so I think we're pretty much good. Anything else, Amy, that you, any closing thoughts?
That's pretty much it. I hope people got some value. You can send me messages at bubbles up, like, on Twitter. And like I said, I may be able to help out if anybody has any other questions they want to ask. I am seen on the forum under my name, Amy. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully people don't have to go to the forum for suspensions, because they do get, there's some sort of information in there that sometimes you just don't get without the help of an expert. So just that's pretty much it. I just hope people got some, heard some tidbits they hadn't heard before. They can use.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. And I do want to remind everyone to join us in our Facebook group, meetup, and also YouTube. YouTube's where I put the videos. Try to have them up the Friday following the meetup. So I'm going to try to get this up by Friday, fingers crossed. And next month, we're going to have a speaker Wednesday, October the 12th. Getting that confirmed. So check back this week. Hopefully I'll have an announcement by beginning of the week on who our speaker is going to be for October, but that will be October 12th. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you all next month. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Tricia. Awesome.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.